Hello, updating tubers, and welcome back to a long time no see video with me, Blue Ankylo. So today's episode video is probably going to be a little bit all over the place. It's not like I wrote a script for this or anything, and I've got a lot of things on my mind I'd like to talk about, but I'll give you a quick plan for the video. So to start with, we're going to talk a bit about the channel and what's going on with things. Might turn the music down a little bit here. Didn't audio test it. Everything's balanced. It's just difficult. Just turn the music down a little bit. But yeah, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in channel and YouTube, because I have not been doing as many videos as I wanted, and a little bit about my personal life. I don't generally get into a lot of details, but I'll share a couple things. And this is the same save file from the Factorio Let's Play streams that we were doing last year in 2023 around, I think, June or July. I think we did it. So it's been on pause for a long time, and I hadn't played it. And then I came back to it with a bunch of updates to the mods, and that wrecked everything, so then it took me a few days at least to fix things. And then I did a little bit of progress on my own, but I feel I'll give you guys a little bit of a base overview. I feel like my microphone might be way too loud again. Hopefully this is okay. I'll double check it after I record it, but I'm a bit out of practice, and it's been real hard to get back to it. But yeah, the second half of the video, I'll do a bit of a recap on what's going on, just to talk about stuff and show off my cool base. And maybe I'll consider trying to do some more streams to get back into the actual plan. And while we're talking about things, just for something to watch, the reason my base is so much bigger is, I've got advantage of some cool new tools, which I'll just explain here once, and then I'll be able to do it. Wait, why can I not? Oh, just 1 second. I have a cool new trick for me that I haven't really played with a lot. Maybe other Factorio vets have long since mastered this system, but if you remember my stream from last year, I was really struggling with fighting the biters. Like, I could barely shoot the ones from the mod. Like, they're super strong, and I couldn't push them out very much, so I was kind of stuck in my base. We don't have to worry about that anymore because, well, artillery. I have expanded my defenses and walls and stuff, as you do. I'm planning on doing this for the second half, but just the bare description of how this works is I got a bunch of these artillery turrets, which weren't around in the game the last time I played, before the 1.0 version. They're not even really modded, although they are modded, but they're in the base Factorio game now, and it's just enemies are stronger, and there's upgrades and stuff now that go further on than in vanilla. I've also got an ammo belt from the base that supplies green ammo for the gun turrets, and artillery shells for the big turrets, and then I've got laser turrets and flamethrowers with light oil supplying it. Basically, the entire map is guarded by at least 3 layers of walls, a row of laser turrets, and then as many turrets, guns, and flames and stuff as I felt like. Generally trying to put places that get attacked frequently, which tend to be around water where the pathing kind of hits the same area. They get like doubled up and stuff. Also, the big turrets, when they hit something, the enemies kind of focus towards them. So wherever you've got artillery turrets, if you're going to use them, you probably want to have a little bit more defenses nearby, because they'll tend to focus on that zone. Anyway, while we're talking about life and difficult stuff, I can press the 1 button to bring up my artillery targeting system, and even in the fog of war, I've got the radar sort of showing us some things. In when you can see, you can just click here a few times. I probably don't need that many shots, but we'll just click there a few times. If we zoom out a little bit, we should see some projectiles coming. And, splat. Modded biters are so strong that these guys, behemoth snappers, they can take a lot of hits from even artillery. But, then they walk into the walls and they die. And I'm pretty confident my base is uncrackable at this point. That red one, I believe, is a Leviathan tier, which is even stronger than behemoth. But, yeah, the bots come and fix any damage. Occasionally, we lose a couple bots if it's a really big wave, but yeah, I think we're pretty secure these days. These are actually, when you see a little spot like that, it's actually the biters trying to make an outpost. So if you shoot them, or clear them however you want to, interrupt them, they won't actually build a new base with their own worms and spawners. So if you're paying attention, you can just, stop them from building stuff. Of course, by having these artillery turrets nearby, any structures that get built nearby just get auto-shelled anyway. But yeah, I'll just be blowing stuff up while we talk about things, because it's kind of fun. So, YouTube stuff, real life stuff, what's been going on with Blue? What's this channel update I was speaking of? Well, as you've probably noticed if you've been subscribed for a while, I haven't really done a lot of videos the last couple years. I've had a variety of every 2 or 3 times a year I'll put out an update video and try to get back into the game, while streaming or recording or something. And it generally lasts for a 1 or 2 series, and then something gets in the way in real life, and I get off of it again. And it's been really discouraging because it's not going the way I want it to go. I know I'm not like super popular, famous, ultra YouTuber or anything, but I have my own sort of standards or goals and objectives, and it's hard for myself when I don't meet them. So it's been a bit rough on me. It's been hard to keep motivated, but it's not just YouTube. So that's what I want to talk about. I'm probably some level of maybe depressed or burned out in real life stuff, like non-YouTube related. Although maybe YouTube related, it's hard to say. For those, we've been talking about the channel for a while. I live in a housing cooperative, an apartment building that's owned and run by the people that live there. And I've been more involved with keeping things running than most people would typically be. Most of the people who live here, the members, probably treat it like a regular apartment, market apartment where you just pay the landlord the rent. Forgetting that, there's no landlord really, there's no owner of this building. It's just the people who live here are all partial owners and are supposed to be, it's kind of like a hybrid between ownership, like, you buy a house, as if anyone owns houses these days. But, it's kind of a cross between ownership and rental, where everyone who lives here takes a share of the responsibility of owning a place, which generally, the concept is pretty neat. It's you're not just enriching a landlord and having some millionaire, making profit off of your rent or whatever, like obviously happens a fair bit. And you don't have to have all the risk of being a landlord or like owner, because if you own a house and the roof breaks, the tree lands on the roof and your insurance doesn't cover it, or the shingles pop off, or whatever, stuff breaks all the time. If you're a homeowner, you got to pay for all that yourself. So you generally have to have a savings account and more insurance, and there's just a lot of things that can mess it up a little bit, But anyway, the co-op is supposed to be sort of a compromise between that, and it's a bit closer to social housing. It's not low income or subsidized specifically, but the idea is, the community kind of helps together to run things. And I actually think in some ways it's been very successful. I think I generally, I'm a bit of an introvert hermit, but I actually think generally I appreciate having the neighbors here, and we generally know each other and trust each other a little bit more than a random apartment building where you never talk to your neighbors. Like, we actually work together on some projects, and we might not all get along. There's, I like some neighbors more than others, but we do actually, meet up for meetings and try to get stuff done for the benefit of the building. Like to keep the rent or housing charge low, and to keep services up, like maintenance and repairs and all the stuff that comes along with it. We do a lot of work, and there's a lot of people who are skilled in different things. We've got people who are like maybe more interested in actual maintenance, plumbing or repairs, and they help out sometimes when members have problems with, I don't know, home maintenance stuff that if it was a homeowner, you'd either do it yourself or pay someone, and a renter, you generally just have your landlord do it. But it's nice when we've got like your neighbors that and kind of trust a little bit, kind of can help you out a little bit, rather than just having to go straight to a trades. Having someone charge you. And I mean, I live in Vancouver, and I'm assuming it's probably pretty standard around these days. Man, call out fees for plumbers and electricians and stuff is crazy expensive. Like hundreds of dollars per hour with minimum times and stuff. And a lot of times they'll come and not even fix anything. They'll just go, oh yeah, that's broke. That'll be $400 for you to schedule a $5,000 repair later. And it adds up crazy fast. So it's interesting, kind of trying to find the compromise between, running a sort of like a business as an apartment complex, and trying to balance a little bit more of that community support stuff, where hopefully there are some people trying to reduce the number of those sorts of emergency calls where members take care of their unit a little bit more as if they were a homeowner, right? Like, because generally speaking, right, that's a classic difference between a ownership and a rental. If you're renting something, it's easy to treat it poorly. Like, if let's say you're in a rental and you don't actually own your dishwasher or your stove or anything, it doesn't really matter how you use it. The chances are, once it breaks, the landlord's going to have to buy a new one legally. They're not going to, well, at least most places, they're not going to be able to charge you for the repairs or the maintenance or the replacement of it, unless they could prove that you like put a bag of nickels into it or something. But like generally speaking, doesn't matter how well you maintain your stuff in a rental, the landlord foots the bill. Well, we're not really like that, so at least well, a lot of the people who live here are like that, unfortunately. But we're supposed to be sort of a compromise where it's closer to being homeowners that look after their own stuff and take care of it so that it doesn't break as often. Maybe doesn't, like if you owned your own dishwasher and if you classic dishwasher maintenance stuff. I know way too much about this now compared to the old days, but just because I've been stuck in it the last few years here at the co-op. But if you don't run it every so often, then the seals dry out and crack, and then it'll leak. And if you run it but you don't rinse the food off well enough, or you don't clean out the filters and traps and stuff like that, maybe run some solvent through it, a cleaner of some sort to reduce like calcium buildup. Depends on your hard, soft water, whatever. There's maintenance you're supposed to do just as a appliance owner. And I don't know, I can't speak for all homeowners, but I would generally assume that if you owned it and were responsible for paying for the replacement of it, most people probably would at least try to keep their stuff running. Whereas I definitely see in apartment rental logic being like, nah, that's not my problem. Like, let's just have the landlord pay for it when it breaks and buy me a new one, because part of my mortgage, or not my mortgage, part of my lease or rental agreement is this appliance is part of it. Anyway, so the co-op is in this weird in-between stage where we want members to be responsible for their stuff because the savings go directly to them. It's not like we have a landlord that's making profit off of us. It's if we don't spend, let's say $10,000 repairing dumb stuff that we could have prevented, then we don't need to raise the housing rate for the next year, or at least hopefully not as much, right? Like that's sort of the idea, which is a nice idea. And in practice, it doesn't really work, or at least at the moment it's not working. It depends on the people, of course. 51 units, that's like, I don't know, nearly 100 people live here. Some of them, probably most of them are decent, but we're going through a bunch of stuff right now that's really stressing me out. There's people keep clogging the drains, and the plumbers keep pulling out like glass, like literally just like claw, we've got like, I don't know, 3 or 4 inch wide, exhaust pipes for plumbing, and they're just clogged solid with broken glass, and they're pulling out like latex gloves from cleaning or something, and like paper towel, and just stuff that you can't, like, if you don't know, by the way, don't flush anything that's not coming out of your body, or like toilet paper. A lot of things that say flushable on the packaging really aren't. Anyway, so we're going through a problem right now where we've had like 3 in the last couple weeks where the ground floor units, their toilets and tubs and stuff start backing up because the drains clog down there at the bottom, of course. And then they get like sewage backing up into their unit and then leaking from the pipes into the parkade below the building. And then we get an emergency plumber call out, and everyone's super upset and mad, and the plumbers charge us thousands of dollars for the emergency call out. And then there's like restoration costs to repair the damage from the flooding, and all the members, everyone's just, super angry and mad. And the problem is, like, what's the cause of it? Well, someone that you could never find out, you don't know who it is, but someone who lives here is continuously flushing or pouring down the drain or whatever, stuff that they really shouldn't, and they're just causing thousands and thousands of dollars, probably at this point tens or 20s of thousands of dollars of damage. And not just the dollars, like, dollar values are important, but also, like, it's all hours of work, right? Because this is now the volunteers, the members on these committees and stuff that are the ones talking about it and trying to figure out recourses and allow the plumbers in, and all the people with the poor people on the ground floor that are dealing with the backups and stuff. Like they that sucks too. So there's a huge mental drain and financial drain, and that's just one random example. I could go on forever. But anyway, that kind of stuff just keeps happening, and it's been really taxing for me as the unfortunate sort of responsible one somehow. I don't know why. You never think Blue Ankylo, the guy that plays silly video games online and has a blue dinosaur as his avatar, would be the serious one in discussion, but somehow, it just is what it is. I end up being oftentimes the one trying to, look at the budget and have some sort of policies and best practices that we follow, and maybe don't just throw money away down the drain. Like, basically every time I get these call-outs, it's like, someone's just flushing dollar bills down the toilet. And because I'm also the one that tends to do a lot of the work for budgeting, because no one likes budgets. Everyone hates looking at spreadsheets and numbers, and I'm a bit of a math guy. I'm playing, the Spreadsheet Simulator with belts and factories right now, so you can feel it. I end up spending a lot of my volunteer time that I've been trying to get away from so I can do things like play video games. But I end up spending a lot of my co-op volunteer time, trying to make the budgets balance and make sure the management company is doing their job, and I don't know, trying to figure out what kind of education, or like how do we teach people to stop destroying their dishwashers, or can we keep affording to pay for dishwashers, or all those things, that the hard stuff that most people don't really want to deal with. Anyway, so it seems to always fall back on me and my circle of, it's not just, I'm not saying I do it all alone by any means, but the group of us that are actively trying to keep this place in not shut down or doubling the rent. Anyway, this has unfortunately been a very continual problem the last couple years, and this is what's one of the things that's been dragging me away from the YouTube stuff a bit more, is just continually bad scenarios. And I used to be on the board of directors for the co-op, which is a terrible mistake. Never do that. Anyone who's like proud of being on a homeowner board or a strata board, if it's fine, like sometimes it's volunteer work. It's we need people to do that. It's good. Don't discourage people from joining up to those kinds of things, because a lot of these kind of community projects kind of need things like that to work. But anyone who's like power tripping on it, or really like bragging about how I'll get you kicked out, or I'll get you fined, or I love being the board president or whatever, don't listen to them. Those are the narcissists probably of the world. Everyone who does it properly is burned out and exhausted, and just trying to take turns keeping the place they like, the thing they care about, afloat. Anyone that gets too riled up in the, I am the law kind of mentality, I would give them a bit more space. I don't trust. We deal with those people here too, and I'm not a huge fan. So anyway, that's the co-op stuff. Unfortunately, I was on the board, which was real bad for the last 4 years until November. And the last few months I've been off the board, which was good because it kept me a little bit more distance. But unfortunately, as well, when you step back from a big project, it's hard to like divest yourself of it entirely and stop, being aware. Or a lot of the projects I was working on are still in effect. Like things, I still live here. I still would like to still live here. And so now I have to pass the torch to like new people to hope that they will care at least a little bit about making sure the place keeps running. And unfortunately, in just a few months, it's sounding more and more like the current board is a little bit on the let's not do anything proactively and let's just react to problems kind of mentality. And it's too hard, we don't have enough time, and everyone's got excuses for how much busy they are with life, and I understand. But if everyone's too busy to do anything, then this place it's kind of doomed. I mean, it'll struggle along for a while, but if no one wants to do the hard stuff, it won't get any better, and it will only really get worse. So I'm a bit pessimistic, unfortunately, these days. I've lost a lot of my positive hopes for this place I'm living in, and I still hope it'll work out. But it's very hard to sit back and just watch it all burn, kind of thing, right? And I'm sounding a bit I don't know, presumptuous to jump to that, but I'm starting to see some, like, I wouldn't say it without having seen some flags and being like, oh no, like I wanted to just step back and take a break, but it's hard. And just talking to some of the people who are still involved, it's not going to get better easily. So anyway, that's just kind of what's been going on. I'm still active in the community doing different types of things that are not necessarily on the board of directors, and trying to build up other people to help out, but oh boy, that's hard too. So anyway, yeah, co-op stuff definitely interfering with my personal stuff. But I mean, I've been doing co-op volunteer and other types of stuff for a long time, so it's not like that's new, and it's not the only thing that's making YouTube videos harder to make. I really like to kill these worms from a distance. They're really hard to kill. It's just such a nice light show. I wish we had different colored laser beams, like blues and greens. I think one of the mods I played in the old days had different color lasers and stuff. It was pretty cool. But yeah, so what else is going on? That's enough about the co-op, obviously. I think, without getting into a lot of personal details, the Blue Ankylass has had some, let's just say, health troubles lately. So I've been spending a lot more time just sort of supporting her and trying to help out. And that's, as you'd expect, nothing bad about it at all. I mean, it sucks. Life, man. Getting a little older and just stuff happens. Everything's cool. Nothing, to really worry about. But it's just mentally taxing. The more obstacles life throws at you, kind of the more breaks you need. I can't just go full power all the time. I get tired and burned out too. So yeah, that's been a little bit of a thing, and I do find myself a little bit. Well, I don't know if it's burnout or like depression or what. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I should talk to somebody. I don't freaking know, but I have been having a hard time actually like enjoying gaming, and I mean that I'm like stuff changed, but it's not like just because I played a lot of video games as a kid and a teenager and stuff that's all I'll ever do for the rest of my life. I understand, you know, it's it's not that unusual for your preferences of hobbies to change over time, but I don't think it's that I don't still enjoy it. It's more that like I'm struggling to stick with things and not like give up or whatever. Like it's kind of like I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but a lot of times the last couple of years I'll start a game and I'll enjoy it. Well, sometimes I won't and I'll just uninstall it. But generally, you know, games that I am enjoying, I think are good, and I'll play for a bit until maybe I'll get some minor stumbling block or obstacle in the game itself that it annoys me a little bit, or something else in life gets in the way, like, you know, some terrible meetings or somebody knocks on the door and starts yelling at me about who knows what nonsense. But people do that, or at least they used to. We've managed to stop most of that. I don't actually have literal people coming to bug me in the middle of my day anymore, but that used to happen a lot more than it does. But thankfully that's not so bad. But yeah, anyway, something interrupts my you know, whatever game I'm playing, and then I end up like, I don't know what it is. It's like I fall out of it, I stop playing it, or I lose interest or something, and then I just kind of limbo for a while and like dance between a few games, not really ever committing or really enjoying it, just like playing it for the sake of it, or wishing I had the energy to play it. Like sometimes it's time, but I'm finding my problem the last couple of years is really more like energy and motivation more so than you know, money or time. That's there's some saying about that too, right? Like when you're a kid, you've got infinite time and energy, but no money for anything, and then when you're in university, you've got infinite motivation, but not enough. Maybe even some money, but not enough time because you're busy or something. And then once you're in middle age, you're like, you've probably got the money and you might even have some time at that point, but then you just start not having enough energy to do things. I'm worried that I'm hitting sort of that timeline, which I'm not a huge fan of. But anyway, like I said, I don't know all the details. I'm just kind of rambling here a little bit. But I have been having a hard time really sticking with games and really enjoying them the way I feel like I used to. It's been a bit rough. So anyway, that all has contributed to making these Let's Plays a bit hard. I actually have probably, I don't know how many anymore, but I've got quite a few projects of like recorded series that I've started playing and recording, maybe got halfway or 2/3 of the way through, and then again, for whatever reason, just stopped, not just playing, but actually recordings, and then I don't bother uploading them or processing them because I just stopped playing them, and sometimes that's fine, but it's happened a lot the last couple years, and I feel like that's also kind of upsetting for me as well. It feels like I'm just wasting time, or I'm not getting my goals met or whatever. And so, you know, that's happened. I've got like, just to list a couple in case you're wondering, I'm hoping to get back to at some point. For instance, Factorio. But also I started recording about halfway through Star Ocean 2, the PlayStation 1 version, because I played through the first one, the remake, or not the remake, the translation on the Super Nintendo was a lot of fun, and I was planning on continuing it to the one for the PlayStation 1 that I enjoyed when it first came out quite a lot. What else was I recording? There was an N64 game I was playing that you'll never have heard of, but I recorded like 3/4 of that. I don't know, I have to look through my files and stuff. I've had all kinds of projects that I started and stopped the last couple years. And same with streams, where I'd start a game and then not finish it. I don't like. It was one of my goals when I started Let's Playing was to always like finish a series once I start, which is a bit ambitious because some games just aren't worth finishing. You try them out, you find out no, that's not actually maybe worth the energy. But at least as an objective to, generally speaking, not start projects without finishing. I never want to be one of those YouTubers that just had a dozen unfinished playlists where you watch halfway. I figure if I'm going to upload it to the YouTube, the internet, I should at least make a serious effort to finish series that I upload so that it's not left in between. Because I remember getting really annoyed when I first started watching Let's Plays, back in the ancient era, the dinosaur age of YouTube. And every now and then, well, actually fairly frequently, you'd Let's Players would just not get as many views as they wanted, or whatever rationale. Maybe they also didn't enjoy the game, but it often felt like it was more, oh, this video didn't get enough views, so I'm canceling the series, or it was used as like a threat to the audience, like I better get enough likes on this video, or I'm not going to upload episode 3 and 5,000 likes for episode 4, or I'm canceling the series. Kind of soft threat. I hate that shit, man. Sorry, but yeah, that kind of stuff, chasing the views and the metrics is not great. I've talked about that before in updates. YouTube is very clickbait analytic focused these days. But I mean, I don't really care how many people watch my videos. I think the healthy way is to be like, yeah, if 1 or 2 people want to spend some time watching you play a game and hang out, that's worth your effort putting the video in. It's not like I spend hours slaving away on video editing or anything. So if there are people, even just a few, that are willing to watch some of these videos, and I think there's more than a few, probably, at least there was once upon a time. YouTube analytics, also dead channel if you don't keep uploading. You gotta constantly chase the views, man. You can't take a year off or even a month off, or YouTube stops sharing your videos. It's nuts. But anyway, that kind of stuff is, I would say, like a lower effect on my energy or motivation to do YouTube. But it is an effect. Like, it isn't. I can't say I'm immune to lower performing numbers. Like, I try to ignore most of the analytics, really, because like I'm just doing this for fun. It's sure I make a tiny little bit of ad revenue, whatever, but it's such a minor amount. It's not really worth stressing over whether a video gets 10 views, 100 views, 1,000, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But it's still a bit hard. I would say what's difficult for me is more when I kind of get used to a tier where you're like, let's say your videos are getting 100 views each now, or 500 views each now, or whatever the number is. Doesn't even really matter what the number is. You kind of get to a plateau where you're like, that's just how my channel works. And unless I maybe do, some new content or hit the trends, it's probably going to stay the same because, whatever. I'm not worried about chasing those analytics. But then, the next video series drops down or something, or it's been a while since I've streamed, and, we went from having, 50 viewers per stream down to like having 3 viewers per stream. It's still going to hit me a little bit. It's kind of hard to get over the fact that, like, it actually got worse. Instead of just staying even, it's like, wow, you had a mental health weekend or break, and then you come back and YouTube. And it's not like I'm blaming the viewers. I don't think viewers are even aware. YouTube just stops telling people, really, more than anything. The analytics, we're all run by AI bots, sort of. But yeah, the analytics and stuff like that. I feel like it's just, I get too tired trying to keep track of a lot of my YouTube stuff, and maybe that's part of the burnout or depression. Is I also struggle lately to manage all the YouTube junk, right? Like it's harder than when I started, and some of it's just a learning process of systems change. You got to familiarize yourself with the new way. It's not necessarily better. You just have to relearn things, and that's, well, it is what it is. But this is, I'm trying to clear out this section. My big plan here eventually is to actually colonize, because this is non-passable terrain. So I can move these 2 walls to here and like here, and open up a big new section of land. And it's got a couple core seams, which these little blue triangles, they're kind of nice, and there's a variety of resources in there if I feel like I want it. But I kind of like just pushing these biter bases out. Now that we got these turrets, man, I love this stuff. I don't have infinite ammo, but it's nearly infinite at this point. But yeah, anyway, so YouTube stuff, that's kind of the YouTube thing. I haven't watched a ton of YouTube. I haven't played a lot of video games. I haven't watched a ton of YouTube, really. So I'm a little bit, I don't know what it is. Probably just depressed. It's just mentally killed. That's all. But I'm trying to get back. Well, I always say I'm trying to get back into it. I mean, I have to keep trying. I feel like the worst is just to sit there not trying at all. So even if it sounds a bit repetitive, I feel like unless I want to actually call it quits for real, which I don't. Every so often I'm going to try to make one of these update videos or whatever, and either try some streams or some recording and uploading again, just to try to keep it, try to get it back. Really, I don't even care if I grow again. It's more just I'd like to be having fun and not struggling to do the hobby I've enjoyed. So anyway, it's I don't want to go too depressingly here, but that's sort of what's been going on. In terms of gaming, the games I have been playing on my own time are often actually not always the best for recording either, and I know that's very subjective, but Um, I've been kind of more interested in, I don't know what I'd call them exactly. I've played a fair amount of like incremental, not clickers exactly, but games that sometimes run in the background progression wise. I've spent a fair bit of time with that. I really enjoyed. The reason I came back to Factorio is I have also been playing a lot of like base building, optimizing management kind of games. It's more like a math, like a puzzle game a little bit. But I really like building up bases and technology and not necessarily having a big combat angle. Factorio's biters are a little bit annoying, and I could see just shutting them off, honestly, and just focusing on the base management, the building, and I don't know. It's like the abstract part of my mind. I'm a bit software developer and stuff. I really just sometimes enjoy just building complicated networks and mathing it out and solving those kinds of problems. It's sort of been what I've been doing lately. This is where I can get control, is just making a nice little base. So, but the thing is, a lot of those games are not very action-oriented, or the progress is like super slow over, like I'm trying to think of even Factorio. The mod we're playing is takes forever, but some of the incremental games that go on, you just let them run in the background. It would be kind of difficult for me to just record. I mean, maybe I could do it, but I don't imagine it'd be the most entertaining when it's just like I don't know, just watching these belts go for the next half an hour and I make a tweak to them. But like, yeah, I want my episodes to have some purpose, like objectives and goals, and it's generally better for me when I've got a clear start and end goal in mind for recording videos. That's just the way, for my own style of let's playing, I like to know what's going on. That's why I like playing like the Final Fantasies, RPGs and stuff. That's you've got a pretty I wouldn't say simple, but a very obvious start and end. You get the beginning of the game, and then you play the game, and then you finish the game, and then you stop. I've always struggled with channels and let's players that really just play the same game. It was classically Minecraft when I was younger and started up, but pick your thing nowadays. Whatever, Helldivers is that popular, but any channel that just does like the one game, it has like thousands and thousands of hours and episodes of just the same thing over and over again for years and years and years. I can't play games like that. I get bored too quick, and that's part of my trouble, right? I've been jumping between games too quickly, not really committing and not seeing the end and stuff, and it's been difficult. But like I said, I'm gonna try again. It's coming along. In other like minor health news, things that have been struggling. Allergy season hit here in the West Coast a couple weeks ago, so my nose and sinuses have been just killing me the last couple weeks. So that accounts for a couple weeks, but it's been longer than that. So that's not everything. Was there anything else I was going to talk about for just general life stuff? I think that was all. I mean, I've kind of gone on a bit, but yeah, that's kind of the thing. YouTube's been a struggle for me lately, and I know I have to like log into the YouTube site and just fight my way through a whole bunch of like navigating all the settings, and I have to figure out what I've uploaded, what I've processed, what was shared. If I've completely lost track of all that stuff, and it just sounds like a ton of work. And I just have to sit down and do it one of these days. But I need like the motivation to want to get back into stuff, So well, we'll see. Anyway, and like even my audio set up on my microphone and OBS here, I'm a little bit concerned, even as I'm saying all these things, that I'm going to look at the video back after I'm done here, and the audio is going to be all. I mean, the games should be pretty quiet, but like it's possible this is just a junk recording because my settings have all gotten tweaked because, for whatever reason, every time Windows changes anything or updates on the sly, it just loves to tweak audio settings. I don't know why it's so hard for them to just leave things alone, but they won't. Maybe I changed my mic too. Maybe I moved around. I have my own virtual meetings and work that I have to do, but usually I prefer when settings stay the same when I come back to them. But yeah, I think that's kind of it for YouTube update slash life stuff. I guess for interaction with the community. If you're interested in, I mean, I'm sure I'll get lots of positive comments. We usually have pretty good community on the channel, and I don't expect anything weird. But I am to some degree interested in what the more active returning viewers are interested in. We're a big channel in the sense that we've got a lot of different games and over a long time period. So I'm sure a lot of viewers came here for completely different genres and types of games. over the years and stuck around, somehow, some reason. Somehow dodged YouTube's algorithm and managed to stick around. But I am curious, like, if you've got recommendations. I have a Discord channel. I'll try to link below. It's not super active, but you can make it active if you join and talk. I'm generally there skimming through stuff, but yeah, it's just up to the community what they want to do with it. But yeah, you can come there and chat a bit or suggest series and stuff. But yeah, I'm a little curious what people want to watch. It's really hard without diving into the analytics. It's really tough for me to know, and I don't want to spend too much time because as always, blah blah blah. Most important thing is the streamer, recorder, let's player is enjoying the game. So just pick the games you want. But I'm curious what the people who have been around the longest are still interested in watching. And obviously there's lots of games. I mean, I feel sometimes like I'm getting old. There's just so many games coming out. I mean, I probably always was, but I feel like I'm so far behind on releases and stuff I wanted to play that it's just impossible to ever catch up at this point. But yeah, if you've got some, I feel like sometimes the community, people that have seen the kind of games I let's play, the stuff I tend to like, people that have been around a while, maybe have a bit of an instinct on the kind of games that might fit the channel or might be more enjoyable for someone like me. I certainly listen to recommendations and to suggestions and stuff like that. It's nice to hear. We're pretty much past the days of everyone just being like, play Might Magic 6 again. Repeats are probably not very high on my to-do list. Like, maybe one day, as I always say, but it's it's got to have something new generally. I already feel like I have my to-do list of games is so long. I kind of want to bang off new entries, either things I said I would do or thought I would do one day, or like I've been planning on playing through most of the Final Fantasy series at some point, and never thought it would take like 10 years to do that. But I'm more likely to go back to one of those in the series than just play, for instance, Might Magic, or pick a game that we've already done on the series, the channel that was hopefully well received. But yeah, so I'm curious what people are thinking. In terms of general games that I want to record, I want to finish the stuff I started, but failing that, I don't know if, I was trying to think of what I had on my wants. There's a lot of RPGs, like JRPGs from Super Nintendo and PlayStation 1 era that I was definitely planning on getting around to at some point. I think that's maybe my comfort level let's play style is generally going back to one of those, because especially like turn-based RPGs tend to give me more time to think and commentate, and I wouldn't say they're necessarily easy, but I'm pretty well practiced these days. Especially games from that era. I can there's pretty much always good walkthroughs and stuff available. But yeah, I don't know. I would like to, like, there's a bunch of series that are kind of, if I could just drum up the energy, what I would really like to do would be finish off a lot of my sort of in progress series, like games where I started or series that I started. I'd like wrap them up so they're off the long-term to-do list. So, like, for instance, a real easy one, if I could do it, would be Dark Sun, which was a pretty old D&D RPG for the old Windows. We played through Dark Sun a few years ago, and I started up Dark Sun 2, the sequel, at some point, but I only ever streamed it once, and then something happened, and then it stopped. But if I could finish it, there's only 2 games in the series, so bam, that's done, and it's checked off forever. But like, I feel like it would be nice you get a little bit of that endorphin rush to actually finish some things, right? So I've got a few games like that that are in my, like, boy, it'd be nice to finish those off. I don't know. I didn't write any of these down in advance. I don't know exactly what I would want to do myself, so that's kind of my problem. I don't know what to play. And I will say in the last thing before I just start talking about some Factorio updates here, because we're already 40 minutes in. Yeah, classic Blue Ankylo. Let me just take a drink here. I've been talking so long without it quenching my thirst. I have also been having some kind of weird internet problems with my ISP. Actually, it's been quite a while. It's been very maybe someone in the audience has had this happen to them, and if so, I'll take your suggestions. But it's very intermittent kind of outage or stuttering on my internet connection. Um, it's generally short enough that you don't even notice if you're just reading web pages, browsing or whatever, or even watching like YouTube videos and stuff. Most of the time, it buffers ahead far enough that dropping your internet for a few seconds or even like 30 seconds. I think YouTube buffers, oh geez, at least a couple minutes these days, right? Like assuming depending on your bandwidth and stuff. But I feel like most internet or video providers, I guess, video servers, I'm pretty sure they buffer quite a distance into the future. So even a relatively long internet drop won't really affect your playback unless you're maybe super high. I don't know. We'll go with like 10K resolution, next generation, all the pixels. But yeah, like you can have pretty high bit rates on some things. But I think even YouTube streams it. There is like a 2K or 4K or whatever option these days if you really want to upload enormous files. Sorry, I'm still only doing 1080p, so that's you're just gonna have to live with me forever. I don't know. I don't know if I want to spend the money on a bigger video card, and I don't know if I can. I'm already struggling with my current internet can barely handle my current objectives, let alone trying to upload even higher quality. Anyway, what happens is, especially when I'm in like an online call or something, so virtual meeting, Discord, Teams, whatever, one of those kind of things. Those are times where even a minor drop in bandwidth or a connection really interferes with the call because there's no buffering, or at least very, very little buffering. So that's been happening like almost every call I've had the last few months, really. And it also really messes with streaming, which has happened to a lot of the live streams every time I've tried to live stream. And that's very, very discouraging for me when I'm putting in the effort trying to do this, let's playing thing that I want to do, and I'm already, for other reasons, like I said, kind of, there's other reasons why I'm having a hard time kind of sticking with it. And then, hey, man, also your internet doesn't work. And I'm like trying to figure out what's going on and troubleshoot tech support in the middle of a stream. And I only sort of know what's going on now a little bit because so much time's gone by, and I've had a bit more time to test things out and track it down. In the moment, I never had any idea what was the problem. I thought I was going crazy or my internet was, I don't know. Because normally it's fine. You'd never even have a problem. But quite frequently, the connection is garbage. And if you catch it at the moment, and just for troubleshooting purposes, yes, I've made sure it's not my computer. All devices on our network are affected at the same time, and it doesn't matter if you're wireless or wired, all affected equally. I've definitely tried all the usual stuff and new cables and repowered the modem, and if the connection drops, you can turn the depower, reset the modem and router if you want. It does not seem to make any difference on how quickly it reconnects. It either reconnects quick anyway, or it doesn't, and sometimes it does stay out for like 5 or 10 minutes. That's pretty rare though. The most common thing is just a less than a minute sort of connection, really interfering with your virtual meeting or your online D&D game if you're trying to do something like that. But usually it's just short and annoying. But every now and then it does go up for a longer time, and that is a bigger problem. But anyway, it's really hard to do a lot of like tests and troubleshooting because sometimes it fixes itself before you can even open up a taskbar or something to do some pings or IP configs and stuff. But as best I can tell, most of the time devices all think they're still connected, so my computer still connects to the router, which at least it believes is connected through the modem to the internet. It just has very, very low bandwidth. So if I can pull off a speed test or something, I'm seeing like less than 1 megabit per second or 0 upload per second or something like that. And that's when it runs. A lot of times it's just waiting. The bandwidth is so low that you can't really load any pages at all, let alone do a speed test. And those are the ones where if I had more time, you could try running like trace routes and pings and stuff and try to figure out where it's going. But a lot of times, by the time I get those going, it's back to working again, right? So it's been a bit of a problem, and I haven't really figured it out. So I've tried to talk to tech support, the ISP, and I kind of hate going through that. I've actually got a pretty good company and everything, but talking about things that just sort of tire me out and stuff is like, talking to the guys, or it's almost always guys, but talking to the people on tech support, and almost always the dumbest stuff where have you reset your modem and depowered it and blah blah blah. It's all the common stuff that anyone who's kind of done this stuff for most of their life has done 100 times, and it takes a while till you get escalated to the people that actually know anything. Like the first tier of tech support is like generally not people who are really IT at all. It's just people reading a script, and it takes till tier 2 or 3 to talk to the people who actually know anything, and then you repeat all the same information. And you know how it is. And yeah, I'm sure most of you guys have probably gone through this kind of stuff. It's not rare, but it is just really tiring. And I wasn't sure if it was on my end or not anyway, right? Because I even hate worse myself is wasting time on going through all the loops and hoops to tech support to find out, oh yeah, it's your fault because you're I don't know, mismanaged something on your computer or something you've got plugged in that's causing the problem, and immediately you just sound like an idiot. And yeah, I don't like doing that either. So anyway, I did finally try to get in contact with tech support and all that, and they're actually kind of stumped a little bit too. I guess their best guess is that someone nearby has got like a Wi-Fi extender, like a booster for one of the other, because I do live in an apartment with a lot of everyone's got a modem and a Wi-Fi signal, probably pretty much everybody these days, I would imagine. And that was their guess, was that there's some kind of signal interference, which is a bit interesting because the router it does have the Wi-Fi, but I am not using wireless, right? Like I'm definitely old school to run a cat cable to my PC, and it's obviously connected via Ethernet cable as well to the router as well. So or sorry, the modem. I used to have a 2-in-1. Most of them are 2-in-1s, but this time around we got the separate devices, so I keep mixing them up. Anyway, it's a bit curious to me that interference in the wireless signal would affect a wired connection, but if it's somehow messing with the device, maybe, I don't know. I'm not really a network tech. That was never really my favorite thing trying to figure out, so who knows. And things have changed a lot since my old university era days. I don't really stick around with that kind of stuff these days with work. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of the current threat. And it's just very tiring. And the problem is, like, for like literally 90+% of the things the wife and I do, it doesn't matter. Like, the internet's fine. It works. You can do your emails and watch your videos and whatever else you want to do. You can buy stuff on Amazon, and I can still download movies and download games for Steam and blah blah blah. That's all fine. It might take a little bit longer, but it doesn't really matter. So it only interferes with these hobby things like trying to let's play, or oftentimes those virtual meetings. Well, I guess work sometimes with those that's been a bit of a problem, but usually it's a small enough drop for like a minute. That's not that uncommon for those kinds of meetings. Anyway, someone's got that kind of issue on multiple different devices across a meeting. So yeah, I feel like it just hasn't been a big enough pain, and it's just a mild enough pain to be annoying. And unfortunately, that it overlaps with getting these videos out. That just spend another 10 minutes talking about internet problems. That's a good job. Anyway, let's put that side of the channel update. Let's talk about Factorio base, because I didn't want this to go on for 2 hours, and it's going to take some time to talk about this base. So if you're here for the channel update, that's the channel update. I'm gonna restrain myself from going all over that. But like I said earlier, if you're still listening and if you've got like things you'd like to see on the channel or recommendations, either to let's play or just to play, feel free to leave them in the comments. I definitely take a look at them, and I'm certainly no promises, but it's nice to see sometimes. Sometimes I have definitely had some good recommendations before. So yeah, you wouldn't be the first person that keyed me up to something that I'd forgotten about or maybe never knew about that wanted to. But yeah, let's talk about Factorio. So, engagement portion over. This is, of course, the base we started last year. It's Factorio with a bunch of mods. The main ones are Crastorio and Space Engineering, which Crastorio kind of tweaks some of the recipes around to be a little bit harder. So some of the early game recipes are just a couple extra steps added in. If I start somewhere near the middle of my base, just this section is kind of where I started at the beginning, and I even have a space base. You'll see. We'll get there. Some of the early tech stuff, I believe, is modified from vanilla. And to be fair, like, I didn't play the final, like, the version of Factorio I'm playing now that has the mods. I didn't play without mods, because I only played Factorio long ago. Like, I picked it up, like, 0.08 or something, like one of the really, really early versions when it was way smaller and there weren't nearly as many people talking about it. But anyway, I haven't actually played the stuff with Spidertrons and the currents and stuff. There's stuff that the mod unlocks later that I've still never seen. I've never had a spider robot. And what else was there? Some of the artillery guns, like, I thought those were part of the mod for a while. I didn't realize that, Factorio just added super long range death cannons. I got them kind of mixed in over here. But yeah, I'm a bit out of touch with the base game, but I'm pretty sure the idea is Factorio adds a lot of these little minor tweaks that make sticks and stuff, I think, like plates to sticks, and then sticks into other recipes and like inserter parts I think are new. Just things that you have to add in between iron plates, gears, and stuff. Like it makes it a little bit harder. Nothing too crazy. I don't actually think it was that bad. I've played other mods in the old days, like Angels and Bobs and a couple other ones that I feel like made things way more complicated than Factorio. So like Factorio, yeah, it makes things harder, but not that bad. And then space exploration adds like version 2 to Factorio. You start effectively once you launch the normal satellite rocket. This is the vanilla rocket system. Again, probably with some tweaked recipes, but fuel and parts to build it. However, whatever the recipes are in vanilla versus this, you launch the rocket, and that's generally the end of the game, right? That was the original objective, unless you wanted to just do whatever after that. But that's only when space exploration starts. And we'd gotten to that point in the last stream. We'd launched the rocket into space, and this is the second one. I shouldn't point to that one. We'd launched this one in, and a lot of the research in space exploration and the mod pack are locked behind different tiers of space research. So if I go up here just a little bit, space science. We had unlocked this, but I couldn't do anything below it last time because space science you can only get after going to space. The rocket science was what we'd finished, which should be, I don't know where it is in this chart, but it's somewhere up here. I probably can type it in somewhere, but it's like rocket tech or something. Rocket. It's one of the ones we've definitely done. Yeah, these guys. So this yellow science, we went through red, green, blue, all the military and stuff, and we'd sent the satellites up to space, and then they returned with data that you do rocket tech with, and we basically finished all that stuff. So we had like tier modules, armor-piercing rounds, and all the stuff in here. I'm pretty sure we researched it all, and then when I updated the mod, they restored it a bunch, so I had to research a bunch of this stuff again. But the jump between rocket and space is mostly unlocking stuff to get into space. Delivery cannons, the next cargo launch landing pads for rockets, all the buildings that only work in space because you can't just bring ground buildings into space. So mostly that was what we'd unlocked, right? And then I had not done any space science. So between then and now, I fixed my base. I had to redo a whole ton of stuff, and I got everything working again, and I was like, well, let's see how hard space is. So I'll show you my space base. And that was actually quite easy to get space science going, and then I unlocked everything from space science. And that's actually about as far as I've gotten. I have started the first of the next tech, but it's a real pain, and it's kind of slowing me down a bit. Utility, I think, is the one after that I went for. So I have done some utility tech. That's the next sort of big branch. After space, there's like 3. There's, I think, production, utility, and something else. Cyan, orange, and red, or something like that. Crimson, maybe. And I got to this one because this is... no, that's actually not needed. This doesn't need utility science to get, but I'm working on rocket reusability, sending stuff to space cheaper. But the only thing I've researched this far, this is the highest tier I got, was finally the logistics system. And this is one of the worst parts of the mod, the ability to have chests that make your robots deliver items between maintenance. Like, I've had bots for ages, and they will obviously fix walls and build stuff. I can use blueprints, and they can build stuff. I can request a bunch of stuff from the network to go to my inventory, or I can throw it away. Let's say I don't want any silicone. I put it in here, and then some robots come by, and oh, it's gone. I didn't have to put it in a chest. Now, it just goes to the ether. They will throw it somewhere randomly, stupidly. This is not actually great, and my inventory system is surely completely scuffed at this point. I think this is probably part of the problem. It's a very, very large base in terms of a network, and the bots are too slow to get around it efficiently. So they just grab stuff and put it wherever, and then actually getting it from wherever to where you need it is really slow. But anyway, the idea is the logistics tech, this is where you finally get use out of them, where you can have requester chests and provider chests, and they're the way to solve, I'm sure you guys, anyone who's played a bunch of Factorio knows this kind of stuff, but that's where you finally can fix a lot of minor problems. Like, if you've got these little standalone systems, and I'm trying to think of an easy one to explain somewhere. For instance, ammunition's simple enough, right? This is where we make, it's not working anymore, so I do need to fix this. This is where we make the ammunition that goes onto our belt that funds the gun turrets. Now, we have a ton of these green ammunitions already on the circuit, like probably thousands, because this is a very long belt. But this is where the input is. No new ammo is being produced, so there are going to be gaps in here, and over time it'll eventually end. So the problem is, you can probably figure this out pretty quickly. We've got, iron and copper turning into regular bullets, and then regular bullets are upgraded with uranium into uranium bullets, which just end up down on the train, and ideally sit in this buffer chest, and then I've got some backups, although that's a bad way to do a buffer chest. What I need to start doing, and I'm going to do this to specifically remind myself, doesn't have to be this kind of chest, but this is how you do a proper, not a buffer, but what I meant to do, like this is a buffer because it holds, if it backs up, it fills up, and then if these run out, it'll buffer it until hopefully you fix the problem. But what I generally want is a place where I can grab some ammo when I need to, which, oh geez, I hate all these alerts. I'm just gonna fix it. Put a roboport down. It's a terrible location, and it's still not powered. Blue, I promise I know how to play games, but anyway, it stops flashing. But the idea is now, all I have to do is say priority output left here. Any ammunition goes to the place that needs it, and if this fills up, it then puts it into the right lane and fills up. 3 chests is probably too much. Even 1 is probably a little bit more than I need. But it'll fill up the line that needs it actively, and this could be for turrets or production or whatever. And once it backs up because things slow down or you just overproduced, then it gives you something to use. But you never stop supplying the stuff that needs it. And this is like a separate, like it doesn't get drained out like a buffer. So it's always, once it fills up, it's just there until you come back. Anyway, that's just, sometimes I'm just lazy. But the whole point of this example was we don't have any uranium. Why don't we have any uranium? Well, blue. I've got this cool grapple hook shot that makes you travel faster. That's why I don't have any paths. There used to be a big uranium field here. We completely mined it out because, that's what you do. You just mine things out. And I processed it with centrifuges, another custom thing here, into 2 kinds of uranium. Most of it's uranium-238. The other is True-35, which is what you need to make nuclear power. So that was fun. And the problem is just that this box filled up. So I made a backup box to store stuff so that everything would keep moving because the mining was backing up. But the route that goes to the ammunition, I never set up. So there, I fixed it. That's all I had to do. Or, and this is like if you've already got belts and stuff, what I can do now that I've unlocked that tech, and I have not set the base up to do, but if I put a chest here, passive provider or active provider, then I can just let that fill up, not worry about belts everywhere. And this is a bit of a long distance one. This probably should be a belt anyway, but especially things that are like close geographically or like relatively low quantity, then you just put the chest up here and let it fill, like the bots just fly it over, drop it off. It's really, really convenient. It lets you fix a lot of problems. You can abuse it and overload your network with way too many requests, and then it stops working. But especially just for fixing minor mistakes, it's so convenient. But the mod packed it away behind like 500 hours of content, so it took a really long time to get it, and I just unlocked it, and it kind of means I'm not going to destroy my base, but it means I should refactor and fix a lot of stuff, and that's just a big project, so I haven't gotten around to that. But let's see, what else should I talk to you about my base? That's how far we got in tech. I will do maybe a walkthrough, just because if I do end up streaming this, it'd be nice to be like, hey, did you watch the update video? It's how I update everybody. But let's go to space, you know? So the problem I still have is space rockets are pretty expensive. It's 100 rocket sections. One rocket section costs all that stuff. Plus a bunch of fuel, which, I mean, fuel is kind of mostly oil, but it definitely costs some oil to fill up the fuel section. And the capsule that you ride in is actually pretty cheap. That's fine. It's reusable. But the cargo itself, it can hold like a big box worth of inventory, all this stuff. So I generally try to only, you know, use it when I'm bringing stuff back and forth. Like, there's probably something I need on the moon, so I should bring it with me, and that slows the trips down a bit. I don't know off the top of my head, and I'm just going to ignore it. It's fine. I'm rich enough, I think it's no big deal, but I have a box full of this stuff. Like, it's fine. But yeah, I generally prefer to bring things with me to be efficient, you know. It's like when you're walking around your house, you know, if you're making a trip to the kitchen, bring something with you. Don't just make 2 trips, you know. Try to keep your hands full while you're traveling around, and you won't have to repeat as often. You know. Anyway, we'll go to space. I'll show you space. Also, don't go to space if you don't have a space suit, or you die. That's an early lesson. I am technically wearing a space suit. It's a just a thruster suit, and you can do this on Earth too. But if I think I need fuel in my inventory, but you can fly around. I'll show you the space base in just a second here. Landing pad with overflowed inventory, as you do. Was it V, R, T, C? No, C is the grapple beam. X, Z. Huh. There is a flying button. Uh-oh. We lost control. I swear there was a button for my thrusters, because you needed some sort of fuel in your inventory, but I'm pretty sure rocket fuel counts. And then you should be able to hover. Thrusters and mag boots, yeah. I don't know what the button is. Maybe I rebinded it or something. I thought it was just G or B or V, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't really matter because the hookshot's better. But space is cool. It didn't used to have all this gray platform stuff. Also, you can see the space. When you're in space, you just sort of hover. It's kind of cool. It used to all be like this, and then I started building scaffolding because, well, you'll see. But we had these little sort of asteroid platforms, and there's a whole bunch of stuff here, and it was actually really cool. I kind of wish I'd recorded it, but the first trip to the space platform was really cool, and we stole a lot of resources, including a bunch of those logistic chests, the differently colored ones, the blues, the greens, and purples. There was a bunch of stuff like that, including this cool little beacon thing, which powers and connects the network for bots, a huge area. It's like a very high-tier tech substation. But I still can't build stuff like this, so it came with a bunch of free things like that, which was cool. And, you had to get water, so there's, like, ice that you had to mine and then melt, which we didn't have the right building for, but eventually you can get water. And then when you're in space, you need to breathe, so you have life support that you build, and then those get used up every, so many seconds. And then we put them in a used life support one, and then you get cosmic water, and then you filter it, and you get some decontaminated cosmic water, and then you clean that up, and you make a little bit of biosludge, or, well, contaminated to decontaminated, and then from contaminated to just regular cosmic, yeah. So anyway, you clean up all the goo that you breathe out, and you end up with a bunch of sludge, and then some more water. At first, we had to actually ship water up here, and unfortunately, lubricant to make space water. I don't know what space water is, because it's just water plus a little bit of oil, basically. So space water, it's like 99% water and 1% oil. I mean, lubricant is probably already less than 1% oil, but I don't know, whatever. It's just greasy water. But yeah, so I had to set that all up, and of course the goal was these new labs, which we got here, and we actually have to move all of the normal tier research up here, which is not trivial. We have to actually fly all of this stuff here because you need it at the same time. But then you had to make the new space science. And if you're curious, it's not that complicated. But you need blue chips, which are probably the most expensive chips we've got right now. So you got to send those up. You need space belts, which you can only make in space. You need some rocket fuel. Sure, we got that. You need some stone. Okay, you're going to have to ship a lot of stone up as well. That's pretty heavy. Weight's not a real thing, but you can pretend. And some cosmic water. So the main thing is you got to get belts and some water. I have the water, and then I got the belts. Belts are, again, not super complicated, the regular belts. Lubricant, which we already had for the water. Steel, of course. Low density structure, which is kind of expensive. And motors, which are a little bit expensive. But anyway, like none of these recipes were super complicated, but you needed also to make space belts and space pipes because you can't use normal pipes, so we have to have expensive pipes. Because on the ground we can make iron or steel pipes, but not up in space. so we got space everything, and there wasn't very much room or space on our little space base. So it was very cramped, and I wasn't able to unlock this kind of stuff for... Well, it wasn't super hard to research, but the construction material cost was very high. There's these cool space manufactories. This is the building that makes other buildings. So this is where we make all the other cool buildings we need, basically. It also builds at like 14 times speed or something ridiculous. So we've got normal space assemblers and super space assemblers. We got like fuel refineries. We've got a scrap, just recycling plant, basically getting rid of scrap. We get a lot of scrap. It's kind of just, it's like that Factorio thing where they add in a little junk recipe every now and then. I'm trying to think which one is it. Yeah, here you go. Every now and then, well, that's contaminated scrap, which we have to clean, and then you get scrap. But, you know, some of these just have, like, byproduct that you have to manage. So you have to have stuff like that set up. And up here, it was very easy or pretty convenient to have the bots. I'll do a lot of it because, at the very least, the space base set you up with some starter robots and the logistics chest that I only very recently unlocked. So yeah, that got me through space science pretty quick. It's really not that difficult. But getting from space science to the next tier, this is where the problem has happened. The solution is these little blue things, which is a new resource from a new planet. So I thought it would be as simple as just, I knew each of the new 3 researches required, there's cryonite, vulcanite, and something else. Those are like the next 3. And then there's more ones, you gotta go to different planets to get more stuff. But like, I went to a new moon and set it up. It was actually not very difficult to set up the manufacturing. No different than steel or something, really. But it turned out that was not even half the problem with utility science. So I started having to expand the space. So this is kind of fun. I got a manufacturer here that this is the space platform scaffold that we're walking on. It's actually kind of slow. It's not like a high-speed surface. But it is, well, the cheapest you're going to get. And it's just platform shielding and steel plate, the same stuff you use for your cargo module or to make the rockets, but you need so much. Like I'm working on expanding it to this size, about the area that my logistic network bots can manufacture. I've probably pumped 20,000 blocks in already, and I mean, it's not done. So there's more room, and it's enough to get things going, but I feel like this thing would eat about as much, whatever it's backed up on low density plates right now. I'll show you how this all works back on the planet. But we just delivery cannon them here, and then they get moved in, and there's a bit of a logic network to say, hey, send more. Right now, there's no low density structure, so it's sending the signal to send more, but it's just going to take a while for that to get manufactured. Maybe something's broken. But we needed that to expand, so okay. And then, once I started looking at utility science, what we actually needed, I was like, oh, damn, this is not easy. So, this is the recipe for utility science. Blue chips, okay, no problem. Space belts, no problem. Efficiency module tier 1. Not difficult, but a problem. Cryonite rods, that was the one I thought we needed that was hard, which turned out to be a little bit challenging, but not that bad. And then 2 new things, learning data and thermal fluid. Cool thermal fluid. So, we have to import the blue stuff. We also end up needing a bunch of other things for sub-processes. We need green chips, for instance. So, I really needed a requester chest to make this work. And we get... I don't know where to even start on this one. So, we need, let's say, the fluid stuff, right? We need this thermal fluid. Well, that means you need chemical gel, which is another new thing you can only make in space, which means you need to send petroleum gas up here, which we don't have enough of. But we've got enough built. The buffer here is 46,000. We're fine. But we're using up as much gas as we can send. And, water and gas, none of this. If this was on the planet, it would be trivial. But because we have to ship it all to space, there's no gas naturally up here. This requires delivery chests and stuff and logistics. And that's just one thing. So we got the chem, the biochem, or the chemical gel that is. We also needed heavy oil. So again, you could probably send crude oil and then do like a refinery to break it down. And then you have your lubricant as well. I'm not sure if that would have been a better solution because we'd be only sending one thing. But manufacturing in space isn't actually the easiest right now. It's a lot easier to process things on the planet. So, whatever. But yeah, we had heavy oil, petroleum gas, and then a bunch of iron, copper plates, and sulfur. Another thing from gas production, basically. That's a lot of stuff. So, I had to ship it all up here. This is not hard, but it's just a lot of stuff to move around between planets. And every shipment of this is not free. We have to send it up here. It costs. So then we get some room temperature fluid. Cool. Everything that uses it needs it to be cooled off. So we go through the little thermal radiator, and then we get a bunch of cool thermal fluid. And I actually really should have set up this slightly different now that I'm looking at it. This, I think I need a bit of a gap here because, or no, it's fine. Yeah, no, that's fine. Well, the place that needs a gap is between here and here. No, it's between here and here. Because some of this stuff, thermal fluid doesn't really get used up. It just warms up. So we pump it into all these places that use the cool thermal fluid, and then it will output thermal fluid back at 25 degrees, which we can cool again. So I just have it pumped back into the storage tank. The problem is if this storage tank ever fills up from the input side, then the exhaust product of the machines will stop because they won't be able to get rid of their warm thermal fluid. And then everything will stop. So we actually need these things to stop when this is 90% or something, or whatever percent we want. But these need to stop working before it hits 100, or the whole system will break. Fun times, right? So we get the thermal fluid, we cool it off. We also at the same time have another major construction here, which starts. I missed this one already. We need to make these little data chunks. So I probably need way more assemblers here. I underestimated the number, but we're trying to make data storage substrate. No big deal. We also get a bunch of scrap, which is why scrap is the 50% one. So this thing will end up with scrap, which needs to get taken out, or things will stop working. So we recycle the scrap, which is just going into a bucket for now, and then we turn that rough data substrate into polished data substrate. At least we're supposed to. Oh. Remember when I was like, yeah. The 5 times contaminated water should be going out. It's one of those backup systems, isn't it? Okay, so we were cleaning the contaminated water, and then we got some contaminated scrap that I never bothered to set up a way to process. Yep. I actually remember that now, that that was going to be a problem eventually. And I was like, that's a problem for future Ankylo, because you only get 1% chance per process of 100 liquid of getting a contaminated scrap. And then it'll just keep running until that happens. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, it should be making cosmic water. But now is the other problem where if this is full, it'll back up. And then once it backs up, it won't run it again anymore, and then everything behind it backs up even further. So, I mean, maybe if I just delete a few blocks like that, that deletes the contents when you... Actually, you can also probably just clear it out like... That might have been a mistake. I forgot that included the storage tank. Whatever. Water is cheap. What I really paid there is we're going to burn some more lubricant, which I've got a pretty large tank of lubricant to refill this cosmic water tank. But that just will get things working again. It's fine. You know, I'll have to fix that at some point. Anyway, eventually now, we should be getting these chips working. Good. Glad I came up and troubleshooted this with you guys. The substrate with more, you know, we're using almost all the resources. We've got green, red, and blue chips. We've got copper and iron and low density and steel. Like, all the base resources are being used. We've actually got a pretty good stockpile of those anyway. So the other place that's a bit of a bottleneck is not creating these, but well, we just don't have any efficiency modules, yeah. But yeah, we take the blank cards, we turn them into smart cards, start teaching the AI, which is probably a bad idea. The trick with these is you sometimes get some scrap, which you also have to get rid of. So just gotta get rid of that scrap. Which means I don't have an active requester yet, which means, well, I probably can. I think I just ran out of this chest, yeah. When I was setting the system up, I did not have logistics unlocked, because you gotta do this first. So if I just put this here instead, and I can just request the scrap. I think I used to do this, but then I needed the chest back. So now the robots will at least clear the scrap. I don't have a solution to the contaminated scrap yet. That's just another recycling building or something. Alright, that should fix another problem in my system. So we get those cool cards. We've got the cool fluid, the cool cards, and using the cool cards, the cool fluid, the cold rods, and some other stuff we have to ship from the planet, we get a little bit of science, and then you can actually research things. But you also get warm fluid and, what are they called? Junk cards. So we have to recycle another byproduct, take your junk cards, some more cold fluid, and you generally get a working card back. So you recycle these things, which isn't super complicated, and you get some fluid back. Again, that's fine. You just warms it up. And it only use like one liquid per cycle. That's hardly anything, right? But also, hey, let's throw some broken data cards in there. I don't even know what to do with broken data cards. It's another recipe to recycle. So another building, another logistics check. Just the thing is, we don't make very many of them, so it'll stack up for a while, and I'll fix it later. Anyway, the biggest problem right now is actually shipping efficiency modules. And if I remembered, I would have brought a bunch up, because I should have. I know I'm building a lot of them back on Earth. The thing is, what's feeding all of this right now is delivery cannons. And I mean, it's a fairly simple system. To connect logic between planets, you need a signal transmitter to send it, and I don't actually have one up here because it doesn't really matter, but there's a receiver that you need, a satellite receiver, signal receiver they call, yeah, that guy. And they are just like a long-term power pole between planets, except it's like one directional. So if you connect up red wires or green wires to these chests, then effectively this is sending on a specific network, which is the Norbit. I'm just calling, I guess that's what everyone calls. The planet is Novus, and we are in Novus's orbit. So the space engineering people call it Norbit, so that's what I went with. But any channel is now seeing the contents of these chests. So if I put a receiver back on Novus and set it to this network, it will know, or at least have access to the contents, and that's how I know should I send more. Because if you keep sending stuff, you just lose it or something blows up. Because delivery cannon shells are like, artillery shells. You need them to land here or they explode. So, that's that was the plan, and you still have to pay for those shells. Like, they're not they're certainly not free. Space capsule. I always forget where the item is for building it. I know I've got them back on. I've got a small assembly machine back on Novus building them, but wherever they are, the actual bullets that get sent over here, and if we watch for a second, I'm sure some of them will land. They cost a bit. Like, they're not free. They cost manufacturing and time, but they were a lot cheaper than cargo rockets, basically. And cargo rockets also take up way more space. Like, if I filled up a rocket full of copper, it's kind of like a mega train with like 8 cars or something. And even just unloading it takes up a lot more space than these things. So I wanted to start with these. I'm pretty sure that was the idea. But there's a problem. And the problem we'll see back on Novus. And you can probably guess, based on the resources that are being shipped up here right now. We've got copper, iron, sulfur, barrels of different oils, barrels of lubricant, heavy oil, petroleum gas. We got some coal and some rocks for some of the other things that needed that. We got glass and silicone. And I've got some more space for, bringing in the rest of the resources that we need. But you probably noticed, Blue, how come you're not sending in the stuff you need, like efficiency modules or processing units? Technically, cryonite's from a different planet, and I already sent it all. I actually ran out, but I already brought all the cryonite we're going to get. We could delivery capsule those. But yeah, no, the problem is we cannot delivery capsule electronic circuits, advanced or processing units. We cannot ship electric motors or modules or really a lot of things. So I can't actually fully automate anything right now. And that was kind of really depressing and discouraging. That's where my current struggle is like, this works, but I have to come up here and manually deliver, as many 10,000s of the blue, red, green chips, the modules, whatever, half of the inventory we have to bring up manually, which just sucks. I'm not a big fan of that. Because space science was actually almost automated. I mean, yes, I had to ship up the actual science, but I think everything else up here... No, I had to send the motor... Never mind, I had to ship it all up manually back then anyway, but I was really hoping that once I had logistic chests from the reason I went for blue science anyway, or the cyan science, was to get these logistic network bots that can move stuff around so I can sort of hands off it a little bit and fix a bunch of problems and automate things that have been struggling to automate because, the recipes are pretty complicated comparatively, and start working on, speeding up the throughput, right? I would like to research quicker, which means I need, probably more of these computers, maybe more manufactories, definitely more of these things. I just need more stuff, and I needed the space for it, and I needed the logistics to get the inventory up, because I can't, automatically fly these things from Earth. Well, it's not Earth, from the planet up to space. But unfortunately, I cannot automate it. Well, it's a lie, but I cannot automate it with my current setup at all. And it's an incredibly big project to automate it. And I didn't realize that these delivery cannons wouldn't even work on half of the products you need. So that sucks. Now, yes, we can send iron and copper and build the manufactories to turn them into cables and circuits, and I can do the entire ground-based manufactory up to all the technology we need, but that is super inefficient. I have to, space, man, just building all these platforms will cost you so much, let alone the buildings up here. They're kind of more expensive too. The piping has a maximum distance of 5 underground compared to 15 with steel pipes. The belts have a shorter underground. Building stuff up here still kind of sucks. So trying to make an entire new base up here, oof, that is not what I want to do. And I don't think that's what you're supposed to do. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to manufacture most things and just send them up here. And then there's a smaller subset of specifically space things, like the space belts and the things we're making up here, like the computers, the things that use the thermal fluid and stuff that are, I think, designed for the space tier of building, but separate from the ground tier of building, I think. Now look at this, it's halfway full already. So I don't think we should be building everything up here. At least I hope not. I do have a spaceship. I found it. It was, if you're playing along, it's you just need to send up some satellites until you find the asteroid belt. And if you look over in the asteroid belt, you will find... on one of these asteroids. I don't know which one it was. There's a couple ruined things on one of them. Right in the middle? Yeah, right here. There was a ship parked here. Half destroyed with a bunch of stuff nearby, and I cleared it all out. I put a landing pod here in case I ever want to come back. But, yeah, there's a spaceship there, and that's the one I brought back to my orbit. And it's actually pretty cool. I can't build half the stuff in here. I can't actually make engines or whatever the fuel is, or I cannot make these accumulators or these solar panels, the pylon connecting all. So I don't really know how this ship works. I don't even know the purpose of it yet, but it's cool. And half of it was destroyed, but there was chests full of some advanced materials that, again, I can't build. So, you could take the resources here, the walls, the flooring, the doors, and you could probably redesign this, but I can't actually build anything yet. And I don't know what to use this for, so I've just got it sitting here. You can travel around and go to the other places if you want, but I still can't really get back up and down from the surface of the planet. I don't think this can land on the planet. Maybe not. So you just end up in orbit, and then you still have to take a shuttle up and down. I guess maybe that's what it's for. But anyway, I haven't really been using it for that purpose. My usual thing is I come up on a rocket, deliver some resources to whatever needs it, and then I take the shuttle out and I take the cargo parts, because there's a bit of recycling. Whenever you... That's what I was trying to research, actually, rocket reusability. Every time you travel with that rocket, or every time you send it, I guess you don't have to be on it, but anytime you use the cargo rocket, it breaks, and instead of getting 100 pieces, I don't know how many we got out of that, but we got that many pieces back as recycling, basically. I guess the default is 20, but that doesn't look like 20. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So there's got to be some more hiding in one of these chests. I probably just didn't see it. Or maybe the bots did it. I don't know. Whatever. Not a big problem. But anyway, you fly up to space. Your ship, your 100 parts worth of ship turns into less than that. And then it breaks. And then I can get back into the shuttle. It needs a little bit of fuel. Although it's not super expensive, but it does need some fuel. And then we just go back home. And this has been the way I've been handling the early space time. Cargo rocket with resources, and then shuttle back. And, I mean, it seems to work. I think building a cargo rocket to send back to this launch pad would be a huge mistake. So I try not to do that. And, yeah, then we just use this to restock the cargo bay builder. And the shuttle I took, the capsule, it just gets reused. It's set for the next one. So that part, it's basically the cost of like 80 or whatever rocket sections per trip, which, like I said, they're not cheap. Like, these things cost a lot of resources, really, and it's 100 of them. So anyway, that's that. We're already like an hour and a half in. This is turning into a feature-length film. I don't know how much more of my base I really want to show off. I experimented with a nuclear reactor a little bit. I found a blueprint and mostly copied it. But I have some cool stuff with it that I just want to mention real quickly. The fun thing with nuclear reactors is they always run once you put fuel in them. So they overheat. They don't explode or anything, but they kind of just waste the heat if you're not consuming it fast enough. So there's all these heat pumps that connect to these heat exchangers, which boil water. So it turns out you need a lot of those to run a 2x2 reactor grid. But this should be enough to take out all of the heat and turn it into steam. The thing is, your steam turbines don't run unless they are needed. And we also, you might have noticed, we got a few solar panels. Once you've got robots, even the crummy logistic bots, logistic network, they can build stuff like this pretty fast, assuming you can build the solar panels. So yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of solar panels. So basically, during the day, we get more than enough power from our solar. So these things won't turn on during the day unless we really have problems. Which means if these things are super hot, it's just wasting the nuclear reactor fuel. And we're kind of limited on, like, it looks like we've got a lot now. But this is not even a full lane for however much is in here. And that's all of the uranium that we got from an entire, like, 130,000 uranium patch. And it's all been turned into fuel. And, I mean, it'll last for a while, but I don't want to waste it. So what I've done is I've made these giant steam banks. There's like, I don't know, millions of steam that I've got on the two sides here. And then I've got a little bit of logic that just reads the contents of these steam tanks. It adds it together. So it's just saying, top tank by the pump and bottom tank by the pump. Add the amount of steam in those two. If it's higher than a certain amount, shut off the inputs. So stop refueling the reactors. Now, if they're full of fuel, they'll keep running for quite a while. So I needed a lot of storage, and I set the signal, I think 50,000 total or something steam. So I want it to stop inserting fuel early so that when it heats up a lot of the fuel, and it stops putting new fuel in so that by the time it runs out of fuel finally and shuts off, so we're not wasting anything, there's still room here that's not just wasting. So we get up to like, 200, well, let's say 150,000 per tank, and that just stays there as like a battery, kind of like the accumulators. And then whenever the base needs it, whether it's just high draw or nighttime or whatever else, then these turbines turn on, and eventually the steam gets low enough that the big reactor will turn on for another cycle and run for a couple days or whatever, and then turn back off. So I think this is like a pretty efficient use of the uranium. It's limited in how much uranium we can mine, but that's fine. We're not too far away from the higher tier tech that lets you get way more uranium. Basically, this is an enrichment it's Cooperative enrichment. It just lets you turn the common uranium into the valuable uranium at a 3-to-1 rate overall. But it's a lot of power and machines, and I don't have that tech yet anyway. But I've got 50,000 of the base ore that we can start upgrading into the second. And I mean, even half of this, if I took 30,000 and upgraded that into say 10,000 of the high tier stuff, that would be enough to power the reactors for ages. But we don't have that tech yet. So anyway, I thought that was kind of a cool system. I've sort of showed you the gun system. I have the reason, just to talk about it a little, the reason I have multiple different weapons is I'm not 100% sure how the biters work in this mod, but I have a feeling that they have a different resistance preference depending on the types. So energy damage, the uranium bullets do physical the armor piercing high physical damage, and also radioactive damage, whatever that is. The flame turret does fire damage, and technically the artillery turret does explosive, but it doesn't actually shoot at moving biters unless I manually target. So it doesn't actually hit the defenses, but at the very least we have energy, physical, uranium, and fire. I feel like that's a pretty good spread of damage types. And like the fire turrets are really good against hordes of small enemies that just get AoE down. The laser turrets tend to just single focus one down at a time. And they're really good against some of the biters, but they get stuck on some of the really high armored ones and it takes them forever. But the uranium bullets just chew through a bunch of stuff too. And they've got kind of different engagement radiuses and stuff, so I feel like the overlap is really effective. And at this point, like, I could build, I've got a solid line of energy turrets or laser turrets. I could do the same thing with the gun turrets. I just didn't bother, but, that'd be fine. And I could put as many flame turrets as I'd like. The fire is powered by this oil well over here, where I have 6.4 million crude oil, which gets mined, and it should be... I actually messed up. Probably should have productivity modules in these, and then it would be... Instead of 6.4 million, it'd be like 10 million or whatever. But multipliers are good. Anyway, all we do is turn it into light oil, and then we just pump the light oil into the turret line. I used to use crude, but light oil is 10% more damage on your flames. So I don't know if it's worth it, but that's what I did. So anyway, it's kind of cool. It does a lot of damage, and like I showed you during the serious talk, they're pretty good at chewing down enemies, and we've got millions of oil, so it'll be fine. But yeah, I get most of my power from solar, and then I've got accumulators that really never get used. The last time we streamed, the base was, I think you can kind of see with the old network, the kind of inner square here was our base. I pushed out and expanded, and I needed the solar, and I got access to the uranium, and honestly, it was supposed to just fun to shoot some biters, because they really had been being a bother. I recently went north. I haven't really fully cleared this area out yet. There's a couple of those big core drills up here and core seams. And it's kind of nice just pushing the biters back, bullying them a little bit. And I liked finding nice short choke points that make for good defenses. A lot of times, like once you clear the area out, if you find like a really nice choke point like this, you end up using less resources to defend it anyway. Than having like a super mega wall or something, right? Like this is a pretty long wall. It mostly just gets attacked over here. This side you could defend a lot lighter because it's just not on the routes. So maybe it'd be better if we put the wall here. I don't like diagonal walls. I think straight, horizontal, vertical are way better. But this would certainly be a slightly shorter wall if we did those 2 points. And like I said earlier, I am planning on moving this to the left at some point. But yeah, I've just been pushing the biters around a little bit. I used to just do wind power for a long time, but I think when I updated the mod, they rebalanced a lot of the power income, and we were using like from the core miners. I had this in a different location, but the infinite core fragment, this infinite miner basically, these pulverizers sort of turn the fragments into everything. Really, you get all the resources plus most of the liquids out. You get water, mineral water, oil, pyroflux. You get copper, iron. Coal, stone, uranium, you get all the stuff out of these things. There you go. You can see all the stuff coming out. I was using the pyroflux, the red stuff, to heat up water into steam and use that to power it. And I think when I last played it, the formula was different, and this was enough to make like a net power gain. And somewhere when the update broke, when I reloaded in it, I was losing power. I could not keep my base on. So I tried out a few different things. I built like a biofuel, wood into biofuel, biomethanol down here. I've deleted it at this point, but if you remember when I built these giant forestry systems where we take water and sand, and we even made the fancy fertilizers out of biomatter and stuff. This was a little bit complicated. I remember this is not the best system. This was an experiment trying to get fertilizer just so the trees grew faster. I was using this to power some biomethanol, but it turned out to be a huge waste. And then like when I reloaded back into it, I think what I found out was like you need to make all these gases which require like electrolyzers to break apart water into like hydrogen and oxygen and reform it into different chemical systems. But you couldn't put efficiency modules in them, and they all took like 1 to 4 megawatts each. And I'm pretty sure if you did the math, the overall power input to process the resources to burn the fuel to boil the water to make steam generally, I don't think it was much of a net gain. So a lot of the systems I had from the last playthrough I had to delete because they just weren't netting us positive power anymore, or at least not enough to do anything. And the wind turbines were great in the really early game because they're super easy, but I must have messed up my math when I was originally comparing them to solar, because I'm like, man, 100 kilowatts, but you only get it like half the time, and then you have to like add in accumulators to repower things during the night, and they're kind of expensive compared to a wind turbine. And the wind turbine, like 5 of these is one of these anyways, and they're like, this is a 3x3 versus a 2x2, so that's like 10x2 versus one of these plus 1 or 2 accumulators. It's kind of the same space for the same power, but it's just on always and simpler. I thought this would be like the way to power my base for at least quite a while. But the math didn't check out, because once I started putting down these solar blocks, it very quickly made way more power. Like, the amount of... It wasn't comparable at all. So somehow I must have messed up the math. Anyway, once the bot started, doing... I throw down a Roboport, a couple substations and accumulators, and just slap that down. I can show you my power exactly if I click on something. We're into the gigawatts these days. And if I put it back long enough, you could probably see... I don't know, man. I let it run in the background a lot. This is definitely not active playtime when I'm just letting it run. But yeah, I've been steadily increasing my power. I don't know if you could see... I don't know when... so solar panels being introduced is probably around when I started replaying it in game terms. So everything for this first section was stream time, I think. Somewhere around here probably is when we switched. And I've done a lot of expansions, and I've also had a very lot of idle time. So I do not think I've actually actively played 200 hours since I came back. Maybe 30 or 40, but probably not that much. It's easy to tab out and just let your machines run in the background. Once your base is secure, at some point, the wall combo was so strong, I don't have to worry about anything. I think if I left my base long enough, things might fall apart. Eventually, something might break. But I think it would take a long time. I would have to go AFK for a few weeks, I think. Alright, so, yeah, I think... Is there anything else? I'm just trying to think of interesting things that I learned while I was playing around. Oh, yeah, I've got this cool umbrella defense system, which... There is one coming, but it's not going to come this episode. It's too far away, hours away still. But there's, these coronal mass ejections. I built one of these umbrella things, which says 10 megawatts, plus maybe more, to protect you from energy beams. I guess in multiplayer you can shoot each other or something. That's kind of neat. But, I had one of those proactively. I'm like, cool. And then I had one mass ejection appear, and my base shut down instantly, and then it just burned right through the defense and burned, lasers from the sky just burned through half my stuff. Luckily, the bots were able to replace most of it. It was fine, but, it was a real pain in the neck. I had the machine, but it was trying to draw, 20 gigawatts or something. Definitely more than 1 gigawatt, and I was only at, a couple hundred back then. So, a lot of my expansion was, well, let's protect from, lasers from the sun. So that's why I expanded so much, which has definitely proven nice as I ramp up production. But yeah, I don't know how much we actually need. The thing says up to 500 gigawatts. That's a lot of power. If that's what I need, I'm not going to have that until I get something stronger than solar. Now, there's higher tier solar panels, so maybe those will do it. But, I mean, if I'm making 2 gigawatts with this, and a lot of it is nuclear, and I can't do much more nuclear right now. There's just no more, not much more uranium. I think I have another uranium patch somewhere, but it's easier to see with this off. I am pretty confident I have another uranium patch, but I could be wrong. I thought I expanded to one somewhere. Oh, it's nearby. I could get another 1,000,000 uranium if I wanted. It's not that far away. But and to be fair, I do have some more just sitting around because we get a little bit of uranium from the multi-processing. I've got a box filled with some of it, some. Anyway, yeah. Once I started upgrading the power, made things a lot easier. The manufacturing, I kind of like the fact that I'm still using like my original. A lot of my original parts of the base are still all here set up, and I've just been kind of building around it. I never really like bulldozed it all and restarted as we upgraded. So it is kind of like the story of the base, and I could spend a lot of time going through it. But we've already been here for a little while. What a short video, Blue. Nice recap. But I like how it's kind of evolved. At some point, I really will need to pave it over and try again. But I have most things automated to some degree, and maybe I'll talk about it during a stream. But yeah, I've gone through some interesting things. There's this cool new platforming stuff that I haven't really been using, but I've got a little test machine here where you can go super fast. We've got thousands of that stuff, so we really could start to pave over everything. Earlier on, there's a lot of meteors that were annoying. I did solve that problem about the same time as I started this game back up. There's these meteor defense installations, and they don't use too much power. I mean, it's not nothing, but 20 megawatts recharging, I think like 1 or 2 megawatts when it's idle. It's a substantial portion of our total power. We're using 100 megawatts of our a fifth of our power is just... But it's only because I decided to build 20 of them. You don't need 20 of them. I had like 3 for a long time, and it was fine. They miss some shots, but you need... I would say, like, if you're expecting 5 meteors, you need like 5 plus maybe 1 or 2 extra for spares for misses. I've never seen more than like 6 meteors at once. So I went to 20 because, scale. At this point, it's free, basically. Like, it's no big deal. But yeah, you don't need that many. But yeah, those guys, that was kind of like... That made the meteor dropping, destroying stuff stop, which was nice. If you guys remember my little tree plantation, they all died eventually. I was planting some cool trees, trying to use them to stave off pollution and kind of... Because trees actually, turns out, someone was saying in chat, they actually block a fair amount of the pollution spread. Oh yeah, I turned that off. There's a fair... Avert thine eyes. There's a bit of that. I just don't really care anymore. But yeah, the trees definitely died eventually. It took a long time, and in fact, when I was using early game tech efficiency modules, the modules that make you take the green ones, less power, less pollution, the trees, I didn't even need the trees. They live for a long, long time. But as soon as I started going into productivity and speed, which is your more mid-game, I haven't switched them all, but productivity just gives you percentage of bonus stuff out of nothing. It creates material from nothing, and speed just makes things move quicker. Kind of nice to hit choke points and puts a couple speed mods in there to speed it through. Anyway, once I started doing that, polluting became a big thing, and the uranium mines were super polluty as well. Then all the trees died, the water turned green as you do. But my biggest accomplishment in general is these cool core fragment miners, and I just want to go through this once before we close up here, before the 2-hour mark. So I've got, I believe, 5 or 6 of these miners all spread out, and they all come into the base here. Every one you build slows down all of the ones on your planet. So they started at like 10 per second, but now they're at 6.1 each. So 6 times 6 is 36.6 fragments per second. I believe the productivity is added after that, so it's 30% more than that. So calculate that however you want. It's around 40, 45 core fragments per second onto these belts. And because it comes out on a single lane only, I actually needed 2 red belts to get in here. And in fact, I start using blue belts because they're better. Reds are 30, blues are 45, so just makes things a little bit efficient. They come into these cool little pulverizers that give you all the stuff in a set ratio. I really just get rid of the waters, and I actually get rid of most of the oil too, to be fair. It's not connected to my main system, so every time I have too much crude oil stored up, the logic says turn this pump on and we just burn a bit. Just because anything in here that backs it up for everybody. So if you are only using iron, then you have to be careful with all those other resources that are filling up, because the things that need iron are going to stop. So everything comes in here to the sorter, just gets dumped in here, no big deal. And the idea of all these logic is basically just to keep a maximum size on everything at 20,000, I think is the number I went with. So copper, iron, rare metals, those three specifically just get recycled. If I have too much of them, these belts just turn on and emptied out. Ideally, this wouldn't be wasting anything, but it just means my iron is not being currently consumed. Which maybe there's a problem, but, you know, I could set an alarm or something. We also get a little bit of uranium that gets stored up for later. And the rest just gets turned into landfill, which honestly fills up surprisingly fast. I'm already very close to this backing up because we have too much junk, which is funny. I don't have a way of getting rid of landfill just yet. But anyway, it comes out in these nice little loader things. I really like these machines. It's way better than an inserter. They're a little bit different mechanically, but they go at the speed of the belt, so they can push things in and out super fast, super simple. Makes for a really nice bus line, which I never set up a main bus. Maybe one day. Anyway, we just split it up. Copper, iron. I'm at like pretty high tech level. Well, it feels high. I know the mod goes on forever, but we're using some pretty advanced processing here. So we take the iron, we add a little bit of sulfuric acid, which consumes a little bit of iron plates, but not much. And we get it all for free from the mining, right? Like we get the sulfuric acid from iron and sulfur, which is from petroleum, which is from oil, which we get out of this process anyway. So it's not like we're spending our rare oil. We're just getting oil that's getting included here. This stuff gets enriched, which doesn't do anything. It's just a 1-to-1 or 9-to-9 ratio. You also get some dirty water, which is kind of funny, because all I do with the dirty water is take it and turn it into some sand and some more iron. Not a lot of iron. It's a 50% chance to get an average of 3.5 per 100 dirty water. I've done the math. It's like a 2% or something difference. But about 2% of the ore we come through gets multiplied by water and comes back into iron ore, and it all kludges up the system. We also have a bunch of productivity modules, as I feel I've been upgrading more and more, whatever these are called, red modules, I guess, to also multiply the amount of iron throughput, which is pretty fun. So you get, 1-to-1, except times a little bit extra, and then times a little bit extra from productivity. It turns into enriched ore, which we melt with pyroflux, which is part of the problem is that we don't have enough of this stuff. The ratio of pulverizing to smithing, it's negative pyroflux. The reason there is a bunch stored up is because we backed up our buffers, and we've just been taking the ore and garbaging it, which doesn't consume the pyroflux, so it saves it up. So this is actually it's a bit of a self-correcting system, which I'm pretty proud of. If we're using the iron and the steel and the copper, and these smelteries are working, we will burn through the pyroflux faster than we can. We use more pyroflux to process the ore than we get from processing the ore. Whereas we get more oil, so we have to burn it, than we consume here. Like oil is a net positive, pyroflux is a net negative for this system. But assuming you have pyroflux, and I'm soon to be shipping in infinite free pyroflux once I go to another planet, I just haven't gotten there yet, because it is a resource we can just send over soon. We cook the enriched iron into just molten, which is really cool. I love that idea. And then we got a couple storage tanks of the molten liquid, which are currently empty. That's not a good sign. Something really is. It really is the filters. Wow. Where am I going? So the actual problem is all the dirty waters are backed up. Please don't tell me we're at Nah, it's... Well, no, everything... Steel has completely stopped and choked my entire factory because... Cool. I wonder what caused that. The sand gets filtered out because it has sand and iron. I'm pretty efficiently getting the sand off the line before the iron gets added back here. This is supposed to prioritize the recycled iron, basically. So that should come in first before this stuff. So how would the output be full? That's a weird one. I don't know how that happened either. Well, we can do the flush again, and that'll get really easy to fix. But I don't know how that backed up, so I'm a little concerned. Because I'm pretty confident that all of the smelting, or whatever we want to call this, the enriching, I believe it creates less liquid than these can consume. These are a bit backed up in other things too. I'm not sure how it ever backed up, because like you can see this iron is prioritized over this iron. Like this is definitely working as intended. So like the output from the filters really should never back up. I don't know. Whatever, it's fine. Anyway, you end up, now the system's working, creating the molten liquid, and it turns out you need 1 million casting things, because it's 100 seconds each. I even put speed modules in them to speed it up. But it takes a lot, and there's like 60 of these casting things to go through the amount of liquid we make. Like, boy, do you need a lot of these things. But once this gets going, we make these cool ingots, which are actually really efficient for shipping, because you don't use them in any recipes yet, but we get 10 plates out of each ingot. So they're very dense for transportation. But what we care about is actual plates. Well, the iron never ran out. We had 170,000 spare iron, which is good. So that'll back up pretty quick. The steel completely ran out, and the copper was fine, nearly full. So, whoops, my base. This is sometimes when you go AFK and just let it run for a couple hours, weird things happen that you're not catching, but it's working again. Anyway, it's a cool system. I'm pretty happy with it. The stone similarly gets kind of taken off. We try to use it to make like stone bricks and then concrete eventually up here. We turn sand and stone into concrete. There's a bunch of electrolysis to get... you needed chlorine and oxygen to process the rare metals. I kind of turned this off because very little uses rare metals right now. So I never hooked it up to the advanced system because I would need to. But still at this point in tech, very little actually uses rare metal at all. A couple things like the blue electronic cards, the blue ones use it, but not much else. So I've currently disabled that, but I also have a couple 100,000 sitting there. But yeah, same idea. So you just siphon some stuff off, make the resources you need for the other smelting. I am landfilling a lot of sand as well because sometimes we have too much stone and we need to get rid of it. I actually once again prioritize the straight line because this feeds into our main base, and we need stone for glass and quartz and stuff too. So that's the main sense. But basically everything in this complicated mess of a base right now is fueled by finally some steel arriving, copper, iron, steel on the left, and a bit of coal and stone on the right. Concrete is just used sort of over here, but mostly, coal, stone, iron, copper, and steel, and it's kind of a weird network of junk, but it works. I got a lot of stuff building in here. It's all kind of spread out. It's really complicated to explain to someone just jumping in, but it's a pretty cool base. I would like to some of these things like them. This is why we ran out of. Remember back when I was in space base, and I'm like, why is my research or my construction is not working? We probably ran out of these space alloys. Well, yes, because we ran out of steel, because you need steel to make those. So at least it's fixed. Woohoo! That's probably one of the best feelings in this game is when you have a weird bottleneck problem like that, and you figure it out. Everything turns back on. It's a nice feel. Anyway, this has been way longer than I intended, but this is your update video. Hey, Blue ranted. It's been a long time, so you get a long video. That's the style. I'm gonna try to. I also have this was supposed to. One last thing. This was a clever idea that I had that was one of my experimentations with circuits. So I want to explain a circuit system a little bit here. I had too much coal. The coal was backing up. You can't turn coal into landfill like you can with most of the other things. You can't just burn it like water or gas. So what do we do with coal? I had like 7 of these chests filled up with coal as I keep expanding this, but it kept backing up and stopping the base. Well, what I thought at first was, well, use the coal as boilers like early game, make a bunch of steam, use it for steam engines. Technically, these are the wrong steam engines, but whatever. And then you get power. But same problem as the nuclear. As long as I had the solar, which I wanted, the steam turbines shut off when the solar is higher. So we can actually see the transition right now. As solar, the red one, goes up, the steam power goes down until solar pays for everything, basically. I don't believe there's any way to change the prioritization. So because I'm trying to get rid of coal, I actually might prefer being able to set this to go first before solar. But that's wasteful for coal, so I guess that's not how it's designed. So there is a way around it, and I tried to be clever here. So we have an accumulator, which outputs a signal. The signal is the percentage of use in the accumulator. So you can see it easier on this screen, but currently it's at 100%. So if you look at it here, A100, that's what that means. And if the accumulators go down at night, which they're not ever going to do, but they theoretically could, the charge would go down enough that maybe, hey, we would want to turn these on so that it would go and be used at night. Now, like I said, the whole system here it's pointless because it'll prioritize solar, but I was trying to be clever, and I could have used this like for the nuclear. I was just testing the setup to see if I could make it work, because I thought it would be a cool idea conceptually to have the power turn on at night when needed, but let the batteries, for the solar power batteries, basically cover it if they can cover it for the first so many percent. But I also didn't want it flickering on and off, so we have a more complicated system. It's like a SR switch where you've got, I had to look up a tutorial. I didn't just guess this randomly. I knew you could do it, I just didn't know how to do it off the top of my head. We have a signal that reads the charge, one signal that is outputting a true if it's less than 20, and one that is a different signal registering as true if it's less than 60. So we've got 2 thresholds, a 20 and a 60. We want it to turn on at less than 20 and stay on until it's over 60. So it's between those two where it's tricky, and that's where this decider combinator that's rewired back into itself, and if the less than 20 signal is true, whereas S is greater than 20. If we're on low power and not whatever, it's hard to explain. It just sends the signal back to itself, and they adds together, so a 1 and a 1 becomes a 0 because math, and that will trigger the power switch to basically stay on until the 60 toggles back off. So it's got a bit of an auto toggler. So if it's working right now, we are over 20, so that's off, so S is 0, and we are over 60, so R is 1, but that doesn't trigger anything. Once we drop to 20, this would turn off, and this would turn on, so it would turn this on, and then once we go back over 20, this would turn off, but we've already, I forget how to explain. Anyway, the idea is, you just Google it. I'm sure someone else has explained it better. Anyway, I set one at like 60%, and I have one up here that I set at, sorry, I explained it backwards. It turns on at, no, I forget my plan. I think I wanted one to turn on earlier than the other and one to turn on, whatever. My idea was having like, it's totally pointless, but I wanted to have different triggers where as your accumulators start to go down because the solar, coronal mass ejection happens or something, which was high in my mind at the moment. I wanted a battery of power that we could scale up by more generators sort of turning on at different thresholds. Like every 20% of a power shortage, 10 more generators would turn on. Kind of like in real life how you might do it. This system could have allowed for it, but it's the solution is just build more solar power. Like, it takes like, I don't know. You can do this. This is not even a good format, but you can just plop, plop, plop and be done, right? Like, if you go for the grid, if you get the actual square tile, or as much as you want, you can just tile it down. As long as you got the stuff in the inventory, which, I think I've got a few solar panels around somewhere. Just a few. I probably have some accumulators in here somewhere as well. Maybe at least a chest of each. You know, the bots will handle it. Anyway, I've rambled plenty. I'm definitely enjoying this, and I'm planning to continue. Sometimes it's definitely frustrating. Like I said, the space stuff has put a bit of a crimp on my style. But we should be getting steel up here eventually. Yeah. Maybe. Well, we need the... I forget which one it's going to. Oh, wait. Did I? Oh, no. It just lands here. Right. It just landed. Yeah. Different system before I added the nice organized line. I built this first, obviously. But yeah, there you go. Now we're getting... It's working again. Steel's coming up to the moon. Well, not the moon, but the solar system, and they're going to start building again. And it'll take them a while, but hey, it's working. So I really enjoy like getting this stuff to work and figuring it all out and fixing stuff. But sometimes, you know, it gets a little bit too complicated. Oh, there was one last thing. I did go to a new planet. At least one new planet has been visited. Because how did I get all that cryonite? Well, I went to the little moon, Novus's first moon. This place has no biters. It's actually pretty small. That's the whole thing. So, smallest map I've been on in Factorio before. The good thing was it had a bit of cryonite. The bad thing is all the cryonite is gone. My miners digged it all up. And I think I've got one more trip here to pick it up. And then that's the last of it until I go to another planet. The good news is I probably have enough to do the tech I want to do. But, yeah, I can... Well, I ran out of ammunition to shoot it back to Earth, or to orbit, but I could just send one, I can fly here on a cargo ship, pick up 33,000, and that'll be that. But yeah, you know, cryonite was actually pretty simple. You know, you very similar to my current iron setup. You pulverize it, you turn it into crystals or something, and then you need some... I can't remember what the inputs are. Oh, yeah, you need a bit of oil. That's the one. That's why we need a little bit of oil processing up here. And I wanted to use oil for power, which is, you know, we make solid fuel and then burn it in boilers for power, rather than just always using solar panels. You got to mix it up a little bit, right? But yeah, this place gets us the cryonite rods pretty easy. It doesn't do much else. This planet is cool because it's got a lot of oil. A lot of things in space exploration. This is the Morrigan planet. It's an oil planet, so there is like infinite oil. There's also some resources I haven't really gotten access to, like beryl and emersite, that I can use, but they're kind of tricky right now. They're not what I'm focusing on. And, but yeah, if you do the core fragments, you get infinite oil, rather than the core fragments on Novus. It's just a mix of everything. This is a oil-specific one. So if we want oil, you know, we can get it. But the place I need to go next, which is maybe what I'll try to plan maybe a stream for or something, if my internet ever works, is Vestrian, our next moon. I was having a hard time deciding how to spread out into the system in space exploration, because there's a lot of different features for different planets, different resources, different threats, like how many biters there are, what kind of hazards, and there's the size of the planet and how expensive it is to send a rocket there, and, you know, lots of space stuff. And I was trying to figure out how to do it, and I basically went with, well, technically Morrigan has cryonite. That was the first thing I wanted to use, and it had no enemies, so I was like, oh, we'll go there first. It's also cheap to get to. And I was like, well, we do need more cryonite, and eventually we will have to go to a place like Frost, which is further away, has a ton of cryonite, and it's infinite on the seams, I believe. But it's also super far away, so solar sucks. It actually has 0% threat, so I almost went here instead, because there's also no biters. But I figured like distance and solar was kind of too difficult. Like that'll be the next step when we need more cryonite. But I kind of decided to do them in order, right, for now. So I also need my next rare resource is vulcanite. And I found a bigger planet that has more density of the resource, like super dense vulcanite, big patches. It's got more stuff, but it's got 0 water. So I almost went there, but I was like, all the resources that use vulcanite need oil processing. Like you need various forms of petroleum gas and heavy oil. And that almost always needs water, which I'm not sure how to get. Like, I don't know if I can use like an atmospheric condenser, or if I have to ship it in from Earth or from Novus. So I'm like, that's just too much of a hassle. If we just go to Vestrian, it's a less dense vulcanite planet. It's a smaller moon. You have to deal with a little bit of biters, you know. So we'll probably go here next. We'll get the vulcanite set up. It's also got pretty good stuff. I don't have any Holmanite yet either, so, you know. That's kind of where I'm thinking is we'll do this one, and then from there I can either go to Oddquin or maybe Frost for the Cryonite we'll need. But yeah, there's a ton of planets. At some point I'll have to figure out the green stuff. I think Vitamelange. That might be the third rare resource that I need. But there's a lot of stuff. And like this is just the solar system. This is just around Calidus. We can go... how do we get... I don't even know how to get far enough out. There is a further out. Oh yeah, you gotta click this. I don't think we can really learn about these other stars yet. I believe I found all the stars that are available. I sent up enough satellites to, I believe, scan all of the stars available. But I don't know what the tech is to see what planets are on these stars, nor can we probably travel there yet. So, like, there's a whole nother tier. Like, we're into the space of our solar system, and I can probably get around to all the planets, probably. But, you know, we have to exploit all the resources here. We haven't even seen the Galaxy Explorer across different stars, you know. I don't know how long that's going to take, but I'm kind of excited. You know, it's hitting a lot of things. So maybe I'll do some streams and see if people want to hang out. Watch me pull out spreadsheets and yell at me when I forget to... I don't know what happened to that water. The dirty water, man, just... Yeah, see, like, when things are running in normal operations, we're using, like, half of the filters. I built up... Because they're pretty cheap and it was pretty easy to fit them in, I'm like, let's just make sure we've got a nice excess of the cheap machines. They don't really use very much power. 100 kilowatts is nothing. Just have a few extras so that we never run into a backup on water. And then here we are in the middle of an update video, and that's what happens. Crazy. But yeah, it looks like all the green lights, basically everything's working properly now after a little bit of a, you know, speed up. Steel, I mean, I probably need even more steel production, right? Like, if I can't fill up the line... We're probably not even making as much as the current demand requires. You know, it's going to run out somewhere along this line. Unless it's starting to back up, which is possible. But I'd have to watch it for longer. But I have a feeling we're still not actually making enough steel. Even though we have 72 of the same steel casters. Crazy, right? And looks like they're all working, so good times. Anyway, I gotta stop somewhere. Blue Ankylo gonna sign off. Thanks for watching if you made it. Hopefully this video actually gets published and my audio isn't trashed. Have a good day. Thanks for hanging out watching these videos, you know? Appreciate that. You guys are cool.